Welcome back to the Life Imitates series. This is part 2 of Divide and Rule, the invisible side of the triangle. In part 1, we looked at how fear is planted. Now, in part 2, we examine what happens after fear takes root. Division is produced. Once fear changes the way people see, division changes the way people behave. Neighbors stop listening. Families stop asking questions. Communities stop recognizing shared burdens. And instead of asking, who created this condition? People begin asking, which group should I blame? This is where division becomes dangerous, because divided people are easier to distract. Divided people are easier to influence. Divided people are easier to profit from. And divided people are easier to control. So as we continue, let us ask for discernment, not just to see the argument in front of us, but to recognize the pattern behind it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. So glad you're here. Have you ever looked around lately and just wondered, why does society feel so, fractured right now, like more than ever before? Well, it's not a coincidence, and it's definitely not an accident. Today, we're decoding something called the triangle effect. We're pulling directly from some really fascinating source material that exposes how modern societal division isn't just happening naturally, it's actually a manufactured, step-by-step process. It's a literal playbook. And together, we're going to break this whole thing down into a simple step-by-step guide so you can see exactly how this mechanism operates right under our noses. Because recognizing the pattern, that is absolutely the very first step to breaking it. I seriously can't wait to unpack this manual with you.
Okay, let's dive into this playbook. Here is our step-by-step guide for today. We're going to start with planting the fear, move right into producing the division, then explore controlling the outcome, weigh the costs of a divide, and finally, take a look at modern emotional management.
Right, so to understand literally everything else we're talking about today, we first have to understand this core mechanism, the triangle effect. This is a devastatingly simple, linear progression. Step 1, fear is planted at the individual level. Step 2, that fear produces mass division. And step 3, control becomes, effortless. It's a system that moves people from isolated personal fear all the way to mass management.
Which brings us to Section 1, Planting the Fear.
The source material makes this really profound point here. Fear actually distorts our reality. It's kind of like putting on a pair of cracked glasses, right? It fundamentally alters how we perceive the world around us. Before a single honest conversation even takes place, that fear can make your neighbor look like a threat, it can make a coworker look like competition, it can literally transform a family member into an opponent or a complete stranger into an enemy. Fear changes our sight long before it ever changes our behavior.
And that leads us to Section 2, Producing the Division.
Once that fear changes how we see, a dangerous shift in behavior happens. When division takes root, this domino effect of disconnection begins. The compounding losses are immediate. We stop listening to one another. We stop asking meaningful questions. We stop seeking understanding. We stop recognizing our shared burdens. And maybe most critically, we stop seeing the larger systems operating above us. We just stop engaging. And in doing so, we completely isolate ourselves.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it highlights a critical turning point. When the division matures, it actually redirects our attention. So instead of looking upward and asking, wait, who created this condition? Divided people look sideways. They point fingers at their neighbors. They blame their coworkers, or maybe other generations, or different classes. The focus gets entirely shifted away from the root cause and placed squarely onto each other.
And that brings us to Section 3, Controlling the Outcome.
Let's just sit with this for a second. For those in power, division isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. A divided population is vastly easier to manage. They're easier to distract, they're easier to influence, they're easier to profit from, and ultimately, they're effortlessly controlled. The math is honestly pretty simple here. The more we fight each other, the less we examine the leaders, the policies, and the institutions that are actually benefiting from all this chaos. And you know what? This isn't some brand new phenomenon. This is actually the oldest operational pattern in human history. It's a precise, step-by-step formula. 1. Keep people afraid. 2. Keep people divided. 3. Keep people blaming one another. And 4. Control the outcome. The production of division is directly and seamlessly connected to the outcome of control.
Let's move on to Section 4, The Cost of a Divide.
When this playbook is successfully executed on a population, the collateral damage is immense. Society basically collapses from the living room up. A divided family cannot heal. A divided church cannot serve. A divided community cannot build. A divided workforce cannot stand together. And a divided nation cannot protect its future. It is a compounding, structural collapse that infects every single layer of human connection.
This profound danger, it isn't just modern sociology. It's a vulnerability so deeply baked into human nature that it's rooted in ancient warnings. As Mark 3:25 states, "And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand." The playbook relies entirely on this fragile, ancient human truth.
So if this is an ancient vulnerability, how exactly is it being accelerated today? Let's look at Section 5, Modern Emotional Management.
And this brilliantly illustrates how modern systems actively encourage this. Today, this ancient playbook is a highly lucrative, highly functional business model. Think about it. The media literally profits from your attention. Politics profits from your fierce loyalty. Businesses monetize your insecurity. Digital platforms, they cash in on your outrage. And movements generate capital from your fear. Across the board, division is simply good for the bottom line. To keep those profits flowing, the modern environment trains us to basically bypass critical thinking entirely. We are conditioned to react before we reflect. We are trained to choose a side before seeking the truth, to defend a personality before examining a principle, and to hit share or repeat a message before we even understand its source. This ensures that the pipeline from fear to division operates flawlessly and completely automatically.
And step by step, the ultimate result of this playbook is achieved. We become a population that is entirely and completely emotionally managed.
And the truly insidious part is how invisible this management is. It is not always by force. It is not always by law. It is not always by direct command.
But by fear, by repetition, by suspicion, by outrage, taking us right back to the very first step of the playbook, keeping the cycle spinning endlessly faster and faster.
So the crucial point is this. The ultimate daily weapon of this playbook is a constant, whispering suggestion. The suggestion that someone else is the reason your life is harder than it should be. That is the engine keeping us all blaming each other and perfectly distracted. Which leaves us with one vital question to ask ourselves. Who actually benefits when people stop seeing one another as neighbors and begin seeing one another as enemies? Next time you feel that outrage building, stop pointing fingers and question the playbook itself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.
As we close part 2, we are reminded of this truth. Division does not only separate people, it weakens families, it weakens churches, it weakens communities, it weakens nations, and it makes people easier to influence, distract, profit from, and control. When fear changes the way people see, division changes the way people behave. But this is not where the message ends. In part 3, control is exposed and the triangle is broken. We will ask the deeper question. Who benefits when people stop seeing one another as neighbors and begin seeing one another as enemies? We will look at discernment, spiritual wisdom, and how truth, responsibility, courage, justice, and love can break the triangle. Please subscribe, share this message, and continue with part 3, because the triangle can be broken, but it must first be seen.